and you're watching Rootstv Nigeria. I am Oluwatobi Eneito, and with me is the coordinator of the Network on Police Reforms in Nigeria, Mr. Okechukwu Nwaguma, to give us reports on the elections, gubernatorial and state assembly elections that was conducted in 29 states in Nigeria. Welcome. Tell us, an election observer was shot dead by a police officer, and your civil society organization, your NGO, is on police matters. What are you doing to protect other election observers that are still on the field?
Well, first of all, I think it is quite worrisome that security agents whose role is, to protect lives and property, are the ones now being, found involved in killing citizens, particularly people who are, out there, trying to render services. The case of Enugu, where an election observer was reported to have been killed, shot dead by police officers in the house of a politician. This is quite unfortunate, and we are expecting that the police as an institution needs to identify the particular officers, the particular team of officers who embarked on this misadventure, ensure that they are arrested and prosecuted as deterrents. Reports coming from many parts of the states indicate that security agents are not just providing, generally speaking, our observation is that security deployment has been adequate, but I think that some of them have gone out of their way to do things that are not part of their role in elections. So it is important for the Inspector General of Police in particular to ensure that there is investigation into this matter. In the case of the military, I'm a bit worried because military cannot be deployed without the endorsement of the president. So it is important for us to know whether the president is aware of this disproportionate presence of soldiers across areas, including collation centers where they are not supposed to be. Their role in election is clearly defined. The limits where they are to be found in elections very, very clear, and military can only be deployed or invited to intervene when INEC thinks it is important to assist the police, which is the lead security agency. So we need to find out whether this is part of the Mr. President's shoot aside order, which for me provided the background for these excesses that we see military officers engaging in. And so for me it is worrisome, because otherwise the development of our electoral process will be impaired unless these anomalies are checked.
So how would you adjudge the just concluded general elections with these governorship elections and state assembly elections which held yesterday across several states of the country? What should INEC take a cue from in subsequent elections that will still hold?
If you compare the presidential election with the governorship elections, I think there is improvement on so in the same way that the INEC has, taken steps to address that challenge, I think it needs to take steps to deal with the role of security agents, particularly military, military, because clearly it is the INEC chairman under the law that should determine when and if the presence of soldiers are required beyond certain limits. So now that this has happened and the military have done more to disrupt the elections rather than protect, the elections, I think there is need for the INEC to, as a matter of fact, deal with this issue of the excesses of the military. Because otherwise, in future elections, if nothing is done, they are likely going to repeat it again, and it will continue to affect the credibility and, the credibility of our elections. And it also seems to me that because people have lost confidence in the ability or even commitment of politicians to deliver the dividends of democracy to them when they are eventually elected, they prefer to take what they can get now, which for me is a dangerous, trend. So, but I think that the thing to do is a two-way thing. Those who give and those who receive. Something needs to be done to discourage, vote buying and vote selling. And because there's consequence for it. Is an electoral offense, and the Electoral Act has provision for what should be done when people behave in certain ways. So politicians who offer money, either directly or through their agents, need to be identified. For citizens, yes, sensitization is important, but I think that beyond sensitization, we also need to address the social and economic conditions under which people exist, which predispose them to want to collect money as in exchange for their votes.
Okay, so do you foresee a post-election crisis with this electoral process that has been concluded? We know some states, some very deadly states, as given by civil society organization, Rivers, Akwa Ibom, Kaduna.
I foresee a lot of legal challenges, to some of the, in many states, particularly states where these, violence were very prominent. Places like Imo State, Rivers State, Akwa Ibom, because it's going to be very contentious, and a lot of things that ought not to happen have happened. So I expect that a lot of people are going to go to court to challenge them. And for me, it is important for also to look into, to do a judicial review of some of the things that have happened, so that we'll be able to highlight some of these anomalies, particularly a situation where, INEC officials are abducted by politicians, and because it happened before and nobody was called to account, it happened again. So I think that these are some of the things, definitely by way of example. I do expect that the case in Imo State where, a returning officer was abducted and forced to announce a result, I expect that the INEC should, as a matter of fact, file criminal charges beyond just the other contestants going to court to challenge that election. I think that INEC should actually file criminal charges against people involved, because these are criminal offenses for which INEC has a duty to ensure that perpetrators are brought to account.
So you foresee a post-election violence?
Well, not necessarily violence, but I think legal challenge. Yeah, but again, violence is not ruled out, except steps are taken to address.
And I have been speaking to the coordinator of NOPRIN, and he has given us his take on what will happen after the elections in Nigeria. He also gave some advice to INEC, Nigeria's electoral umpire, to make sure that they fix some hitches which has been discovered during the electioneering process, saying that will help to solve the situation in subsequent elections to come in Nigeria. Well, we have been hearing of cases of violence in some states of the Federation, and he says there is a possibility that this might trigger post-election violence for those political parties who did not find the election result favorable. Well, that's it from here. I am Oluwatobi Enitan, reporting for Rootstv, Nigeria.